got a guy. I put an ad up, you know, about stump grinding work and stuff. And every time I do, I got this guy that texts me and says, "Hey man, I saw an ad you put up. I really would like to come to work for you," or whatever, right? Looking for a job. And I guess he thinks that because I put an ad up for stump grinding work that I'm hiring. And I mean, what would somebody do on a stump grinding job? I mean, for me to justify having somebody out there. I mean, for instance, yesterday when I did them stumps, if I had somebody out there, what would they do the whole time I'm grinding the stump? See, there ain't nothing for them to do. That's why, you know, that's why I bought a stump grinder. That's why I got a skid steer. That's why I buy the machines that I buy, to minimize the labor. You know, it seems like everybody, you know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants a job now. But ain't none of them calling me in April and May, you see. And that doesn't, I mean, that, well, it internally, it rubs me the wrong way, because they're trying to get, you know, top dollar, and we're in the winter. But ain't none of them, I mean, none of them, they're not even returning my calls in April, May. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not trying to hire anybody, you know, but my business is not in a state like, you know, like Chad is over there at Green Acres. You know, Chad has a lot more work, a lot more. But he has probably a lot more expenses too. I don't know his financial status, but I know that what I see, and I know that the things that I see cost money. And he's got enough work, obviously, to justify all that. And that's sweet. Good for him. And he's got a guy he's keeping busy too, ingesting. I saw that the part-time guy that came on didn't work out. You know, nothing wrong with that, I guess. You know, that's you know, that's the same thing I see. I mean, Chad and I knew that from the first 2 hours, 3 hours. I always know within the first day for sure if it's somebody that it's going to be hard to train, or if it's somebody that's even trainable. And guys that are not in tune with flowing with the properties, you know, and different properties, you know, this has got to be done, that's got to be done, and not really know what's got to be done to make the yard look clean or whatever. What they need to really be thinking about, instead of what to do next, is they said, okay, this property needs to be neat when we leave, you know. And I'm sure Chad is like me. He's putting that new guy in a scenario to where he needs to crank the blower up and he needs to blow. I've had guys blow the whole freaking yard off so I could be doing something else, and they're not stopping me from doing something else, you know, on the property. Like I'll say, okay, man, blow this, you know, quarter acre off, you know, or whatever. Blow this, you know, 15,000 square feet area and get all that to the woods. And then I can go to the other side of the property, trim trees, you know, do bushes, and all that. And I don't have to worry about him stopping. And of course, whenever a guy stops and then runs me down, and then I'm frustrated, just like Chad probably was. And then only to go and look, dude, I mean, you blew off half the yard. Don't you see that you know? And to guys like us, it's common sense. But to a green guy, it's not. It's like, well, he's done when he gets tired of blowing. That's what he thinks, or that's what his brain is telling him. He's not looking at, okay, I need to. So when I tell guys that are new out here what to do, it's very direct, and it's probably looks like an overwhelming amount of work for them, to them. But it's really just to keep them out of my way and be productive, you know, in getting toward the end results that we're looking for. Where when I do come to that area that he's supposedly blown off, instead of me spending 35 minutes there in that one spot or that backyard or whatever, I only have to spend 10 minutes there. And then while I'm doing that, I got him, you know, on another. But see, a lot of times on the properties that I do, and I'm sure it's the same with Chad, some of the properties are just not big enough to where you can have him spend 25 minutes blowing. You know, and it makes sense. Especially if you're on a mower and you're trying to incorporate the blowing, you blow everything out, and you know, so I can get it with a mower. That's what I always tell guys, especially like up around the house and all. I say, look, man, and then you got to watch these new guys. Well, they're blowing. If you put a BR 800 on their back, or some of the more powerful blowers, then they'll blow the mulch, pine, straw, and everything out into the yard. You know, there is a fine line of, you know, getting enough clumps out of the beds around the house to get it to where I can get it with a mower. But if you blow too hard, then, well, it looks even worse than it did when you got there. It can't look worse when you leave than when you got there. And I've always tried to tell these rookies, quit thinking about, you know, what to do next. Think about making it look neat. And though their method and their way of doing things might not always correspond with the way I do things, as far as, you know, technique or, you know, the way they do it, that's better than them working for 10 minutes and then running me down. Because the whole time they're running me down, we're backwards. Because, well, now he's got to run all the way over to the other side of the property, flag me down, then I got to stop what I'm doing. And, you know, when I see him coming, I'm frustrated, just like Chad was saying. And I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? Thinking to myself, what the hell? Of course, you know, you got to understand that he's green. You don't know nothing. And, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, to the guys that are green, that are coming out here working for guys like me and Chad, you got to put yourself in a spot to where, in your brain, I mean, where it's got to look neat, right? And, you know, I try to do things when I got labor out here, new labor out here that doesn't know anything, that's only going to be out here part-time or, you know, just, you know, fill in to help me wrap up things. I try to put them in a scenario where they don't have to think. You know, in one hand, you're telling them to think, you know, make the yard look neat. But in the other hand, you don't really want them to think, because, well, their thinking is sometimes not where it needs to be. So what I try to do is I just try to tell them, look, don't think. Just blow this and make this look neat. And get it all to those woods right there, or get it all to that area right there. And, you know, but green guys, they don't know all that. They have no idea. They don't. They have no idea what to do. I've had guys come up to me and say, okay, what do I do next? Like, you know, he spent 10 minutes blowing when I know that it's at least a 25 or 30 minute area that he needs to clean up. And I'll say, well, there's no way you're done. Yeah, I'm done. And I'll go back there and he ain't blown their bed out. All he did was blow the porch off. When I needed him to blow the porch off, the bed's out, and then blow the yard off as well. And get it way away from the house where, you know, I can do something with the mower, push the piles or whatever. So that's what I, you know, have seen with all the green guys. And in the summertime, you got to factor in, if you're me or Chad or any of you other guys that hire guys, if you're one of us, then you got to throw the heat into it, especially down here where I live at, because the heat will break a man's wheel. It'll break my wheel. That's why y'all see me work short hours in the summer. It's just so freaking hot. And then, you know, if you're an owner and you got guys running up to you all through the day in the heat like that, and they don't know what to do, then that's super frustrating, because it's like frustration times 10 compared to the frustration I feel when it's, you know, 50 degrees. When it's 95, the everything is elevated. Their temperament's elevated, mine is certainly elevated, especially when I'm telling them what to do and they don't listen to what I'm telling them. They do what they think they're supposed to do, and that's usually not, you know, in line with what we need to be doing and the way that we need to be doing it, so we can make the most money in the minimal time. I want to make the most money in the minimal time, and I'm willing to, you know, and I tweak that all throughout the summer. When we get to the winter, guys like me, we are burned out on all of that tweaking for the summer that we had to do. Especially me, considering I don't have a solid number one. If I just had a solid number one, then I could really branch the business out some. And, you know, I don't know about, you know, growing, you know, anymore, but as far as the lawn maintenance goes, because I don't know that I want to grow in the lawn maintenance and have any more lawns than I already have, as far as what we normally do money-wise for the summer. Now, I understand that I'm going to lose some and I'll gain some, and during the summer, or, you know, prior to the summer, April, May, I'm always eager to take on more customers, because you don't know how many is not gonna come back. Of course, then you're fresh, because you've been 6 months or 5 months, 4 months, whatever, and you ain't cut no grass. And you probably, for me anyway, every year, I've not made quite as much money as I did in the summer, you know, for the winter months. Now, with the skid steer and all the attachments and all the other things I can do, I'm catching ground quick, where it's not costing me as much to do the work when I run the skid steer as it does to mow, believe it or not. Even though I have a $700 skid steer payment, you know, that is really, for the most part, that's the only factor that you have when you got a new skid steer and you're doing these jobs. Fuel and the basic stuff, you know, fuel, and whatever attachments you have, of course. So, you know, you could, well, skid steer costs more money to run, Ray, but it doesn't, because I can go to, well, number one, it doesn't take as much time. That's critical. Number one, I can go to one job and I can make $1,000 or more. I don't have to go anywhere else. Number two, I don't have an abundance of labor, and an abundance of labor is not required to make that 1,000 or more, right? Number three, I don't have mower wear and tear, mower fuel, and all that. I got skid steer fuel. But there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of things that can go wrong on the mower side too, and you got to do such a high volume of mowing. I mean, you got to really be moving to make good money in the mowing game. That's what I think. You can't be lollygagging around with green help. You can't be. And that's what I think. That's what Chad's saying. I don't know that he said it like that, but that's pretty much what he's saying. If he had that same guy in the summertime that he had out there for a couple of days this past week, he probably wouldn't ever even brought him on, or he brought him on for one day and saw that he really didn't know anything, because it's really evident when you are doing the lawn maintenance in the summertime. A guy can say whatever he wants to say and tell me what all the experience he's got, and I can tell by the way he pulls the weed eater out of the rack if he's got a lot of weed eater experience. I can tell by the way he cranks the weed eater up. I can tell by the way, I've had guys come out here and say they got 3 years experience, 4 years experience, and you'll tell them, you'll give them one of the 94R weed eaters and tell them to crank it up, and for me, I'm just, it's routine. Yeah, man, grab that weed eater, man. Make sure it's got fuel in it, man, and go and start weed eating. And then, I'll give them a 5-minute head start, and I'll just be sitting in the truck kind of just watching. I'll tell them I got to make a phone call or something. I'll just be sitting in the truck for a second watching, and I'll know right then. Another telltale sign that a guy's not got a lot of experience with a weed eater is when, and y'all think this is kind of stupid, is when he gets the weed eater in his hands and he puts it on the ground, and and he's starting it from the ground, being with the weed eater. He pulls it out of the rack and sets it on the ground, and then he goes to the behind it and he turns the choke on, make sure, and he's looking at everything, and then he's, you can see him fumbling around for the pull cord, and then you'll see him, put his knee on the damn power head of the weed eater, and he's trying to start it. When a seasoned vet out here ain't gonna do all that. He ain't gonna be bending down and all that stuff, because he knows that only do that when you have to. A seasoned guy's gonna grab that thing off the rack, he's gonna choke it, and he's gonna pull it. Of course, after he puts fuel in it. A lot of times I'll have fuel already. I'll have everything full of fuel when I got new guys out here, so I don't want them I don't want to see them way on the other side and then them run out of fuel. I know if I fill a weed eater up in the morning, it's good for the day, because we got more than one weed eater. I have one on the mower with me. So that's a telltale sign too, when the guy, doesn't crank it without putting it on the ground. There's some things you have to put on the ground, like big chainsaws and stuff like that. But a seasoned vet that tells you he's a vet and he's been a ground guy out here, he ain't going through all those motions to crank a weed eater. He's just not. But I've seen them do that all the time, and so I've had a lot of green guys out here that say they ain't green, but I know they are by these type of things. And then, a vet, he grabs a weed eater, especially these 94Rs, man. Dude, they're nothing, man. They don't weigh anything. What I do when I crank the weed eater, and I don't even notice I do it until somebody pointed it out to me years ago, is when I crank the weed eater, I have my hand on the handle, not the trigger, but the handle. But I could grab the trigger if I need to, but the handle, and I'll find myself, pushing the power head down more so than I'm pulling this out, the cord out. You see, it's like a double move, It's like, yeah. And that's what seasoned guys do. And if I see they're doing it any other way, or they got to go through this whole big process to crank the weed eater, then I know, oh yeah, So then you see that, and you're like, okay, you try to keep an open mind because you need help so damn bad. Then you see him go up the driveway with the weed eater or whatever, and right away, oh yeah. Especially if you done told him, look, man, I have to tell them. I don't know what Chad does. I have to tell these guys. But weed eating well, that's a skilled thing. An unskilled guy is not going to be a good weed eater guy. He's just not. You can't just get anybody to weed eat and it be good. You can't just anybody. A blower is a little more uniform, where if you mess up something blowing, it's not detrimental. You can always go back and blow it again. But if you mess up something weed eating, hit the plants, that kind of thing, then it ain't no putting it back, if that makes sense. Scalping the grass in spots and stuff like that. Especially edging with a weed eater. Oh, no. When a green guy comes out here, one of the first things I tell him among many is, hey, I do not want you edging the driveway, walkway, anyway, with a weed eater. No. And I'll have an edger. And they'll always say, well, I can do it with a weed eater. And I'm like, And because once they do that, and you see them that line going all up here like that, and it's scalped here and not scalped, you know. That guy Jared, he did that in one job. He took it upon himself to edge it because he didn't want to walk back to the truck and get the edger. I told him, don't ever do that again, man. Don't ever, don't edge these properties. I know which ones that I could let them try and learn to edge with a weed eater, but we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. And then, you know, the no glasses, you're trying to edge a driveway and you ain't got no glasses on? Come on, man, with a weed eater, come on, man. So I make sure I bring the stick edger out when I got new guys out here. Always, man, always. Because any other way, and even with the edger, I have to show them. And a lot of times what I'll do, I'll see how they're doing it, and especially if it's a nice stretch, I'll just park the mower and edge it real quick, because I can move with an edger, and you know, I'll see them have the edger wheel over in the grass. They're not, they don't understand that, you know, going this way or that way, and how to minimize their walking, because they don't know that they don't know. It's, I mean, and I'm just touching on tip of the iceberg stuff, y'all. I'm not even going any into deep stuff. We're talking about just basic, extremely basic stuff, you know. So if you're a guy that's telling guys like me and Chad that you got all this experience, and you don't even know what side of the edger to use, the wheel always goes on the concrete, just FYI. Now, guys like me, and I'm sure guys like Chad and guys that's got a lot of experience out here, you know, I can do it either way, but I make sure that I don't. When I start edging, I know when I start edging, I mean, how do I put this? Well, the whole on the properties that I have to edge, where I start edging and park at is all relevant, because a lot of times if I got options, a lot of times where I park at, that is the best place to start edging, so you don't have to walk and then come back without the edger doing anything. So you start there. You know, if I park on the other side of the property, down the street or whatever, then you got to walk all the way up to there to edge. Just a lot of, I mean, you know, just a lot of little things, man, that the average guy or girl watching these videos, and they're, you know, thinking they could do this, that they're not even thinking about. And it's such a mundane thing to guys like me and Chad and a lot of, you know, just about everybody in business. It's such a small thing that we go through. We don't even think about it enough to put it in a video. We don't. I don't, you know. I don't even, it's not even, yeah. But when I see stuff like what, you know, what Chad was talking about yesterday, and I see stuff like what I live through, then, you know, it starts reminding me of things that I could do a video on, you know, which is really good for everybody, really, because I'm not telling you a lie, and I'm not, you know, saying anything that's derogatory or, you know, not true for sure. Yeah, all those stumps are gone. They look good, man. That looks really good. But yeah, that's just a few things that I've seen, and that, you know, having a greenhorn out here, and I'm not saying that, you know, a green guy can't learn, because he can, you know. And if Chad didn't have the regular guy, then, you know, Justin, if he didn't have Justin, then he would have to accommodate a little bit more than what he does now. Especially if it's in the summertime, because in the summertime, If he didn't have Justin out there, and he might be going through guys, and it would be very, very, very hectic. It would be worth whatever money that you got to pay Justin to stay on. Whatever, I mean, as long as, you know. So, but I know he takes care of Justin because that's just how guys like Chad are built. You know, he's not gonna, he understands that he's an important part of the operation. So